Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
Katz and Cosby, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, let's go to KT McFarland, former Deputy National Security Advisor. KT, is this just kind of bluster on the Iranians' part, or do you think we're close?
Well, the stock market hit an all-time high.
By the way, huge numbers today, right, John? That was amazing. Yeah. What do you think, KT? Because President Trump yesterday, and he repeated this today, right after he talked to John on the phone, by the way, which I love. But he repeated today, we're going to have something really soon, or the strikes are coming. So it sounds like the timetable's really hastening one way or the other. What do you think, KT?
Yeah, President Trump's not going to get strung along. And he knows that he can't. He doesn't have a month to solve this, 6 months to solve it. He's got to solve it fast. And there's a couple of things that I think are good indicators. Number one is that the Gulf Arabs are very involved. They're the ones who told President Trump a couple of days ago, please, we think there might be some aspects of a deal we could live with. Why don't you put the attack off 2 days? And so President Trump said, okay. Now, why is it important that the Gulf Arabs are involved? Because if there is a deal, they're the ones who are going to have to help enforce it and verify it. It can't only be us. We can't be patrolling the Strait of Hormuz till the end of time. It's got to be the countries in the region. And the Gulf Arabs have shown in the last several months they're more concerned with a tough deal with Iran than we are. They don't want Iran having nuclear weapons. They don't want Iran to be the important country in the region. They don't want Iran to hold the entire energy industry hostage. So if they're in on it, and if it's something that passes their smell test, it probably passes ours. But whatever agreement is agreed to, it has to have two fundamental things that are just unwavering. Number one, and President Trump said, look, here's our main goal, our only goal, our really serious goal, no nukes. So you have to be able to verify that there are no nukes. In other words, snap inspections. Anytime, any place, no advance notice. We need to be able to check it out. And if for some reason Iran says, no, it isn't convenient today, then we assume that they're in violation. And then we have part two of what we really need, which is the enforcement mechanism. We destroy that site. We don't assume that everything is fine, that they just need a day of delay. We just destroy it.
You know, KT, one of the things that President Trump was enforcing today is obviously this no nuclear weapons, no nuclear enrichment. And one of the deals that we were hearing, and he verified this, that they came back and said, okay, we'll do this, but let's save the nuclear enrichment. They kind of keep kicking the can down the road. And he's like, no way. No. We are getting it. Regardless, he said, we don't want it, but we'll figure out a way. It's got to get out of the country. So that obviously is key. And then the question is, how quick can that happen? To me, there's no gray on that. And how much you see the Arab countries playing a role with that?
There is no gray. There's no room for equivocation. We know where the sites are. So, we have every satellite we've got is zeroed in. And as President Trump jokingly said, our satellites are so good we can see the name tag on somebody's uniform. So we know where this stuff is. And that's why, again, I think it's really important that the Gulf Arabs are part of this. They will be part of the verification process. So maybe we do have to send somebody into a certain region, a certain site, a certain facility. They're going to be there as well as us. So I just think President Trump, he's at the end of his patience. He knows they're going to cheat. He knows that he has to have it verified, whatever happens. And my guess is that in the next, what shall we say, certainly within the next week, I mean, I'd rather find out the impression John got from the president, but my sense is the president will either have a deal within a week or we'll be back attacking Iran.
Well, the president is nobody's fool. He knows the characters he's dealing with. So, we're not dealing with, a bow tie, white shoe Republican.
That's right. And Donald Trump's not going to do a bad deal.
So,
Not at this point.
KT, Ed Cox here. So
Hi, Ed.
if there has to be some kinetic action, you got to go and tell them, look, good agreement or no agreement, and take military action. Are the defenses of the Gulf states intact now? They're ready to take on the missiles and the drones that would be sent at them?
Yeah, so let's assume there is kinetic action. In other words, we attack something. The response of the Gulf states, then a response of Iran will be to attack the Gulf states. Israel is helping the United Arab Emirates with the Iron Dome. So Israeli soldiers have been deployed into the United Arab Emirates to help them defend against incoming missiles. Remember, we have twice the firepower we now have in the Gulf compared to what we did 2 months ago. So we now have the ability to defend those countries in the Gulf, help defend them. Look, this is not going to be easy. If it was easy, somebody would have done it a long time ago. It's going to be tough, and there may be a lot of nail-biting moments. But the president, my guess is he's got his target list, and his target list is to finish the military targets. In some cases, maybe 20% of them remain. My guess is he'll also maybe work his way down the first tier, the second tier, the third tier of IRGC leadership until he finds somebody who's willing to strike a deal.
Wow.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, and that might take a while. KT, I got to ask you something I'm concerned about. I heard today a lot of reporters were asking questions to the president about unfreezing Iranian assets, that they might want something in return for if they give up the nuclear dust and if they do all this. Is there a chance that we might start unfreezing some of the assets? Yeah, making some sort of deal? Is there anything like that? The president said, I'm not talking about that. We're not focused on that, but I'm concerned that may come.
Well, it's part of a comprehensive deal. In other words, they do give up their nuclear weapons. We do have the ability to confirm and verify. We do keep our forces in the region. We do have a stronger security alliance with the Gulf Arabs. You can see a deal where if all of those things are met, then as President Trump has said time and again, look, we'll embrace you. We want to have you back into the international community. Maybe we have American companies invest in Iran. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but it's not going to be a first step. It's not going to be a sort of hors d'oeuvre to the main event. It's going to be something that would happen as part of a larger comprehensive meal.
That's a good way to put it. I love the whole meal analogy. Well, KT, thank you so much. And let's see what happens. Maybe if the Iranian media is right, which I'm scared to quote them, that's like Baghdad Bob. But if they are right, maybe a deal is soon, and that would be good for the world.
All we can do is hope that common sense prevails, and we'll see. And by the way, KT, what was the pulse of your situation on what's going on with Cuba? Because some of the Cuban people are looking for me.
The following. I think they're very far along on what the terms of a relationship, what it would look like, how America would invest in developing Cuba. I'm not as concerned with the indictment of a 94-year-old Raul Castro, who by all accounts is physically and mentally pretty incompetent. I think a lot of that was to show the Cuban-American community that, look, we're not going to forgive these guys. But I think it'd be very difficult to comprehend how a man who's 94 years old and mentally and physically incompetent is going to stand trial. But indict him, absolutely. But the conversation, as I understand it, is very far along, and the Cuban people want it. The United States wants it. The only people standing in the way are a bunch of
even
bureaucrats.
Cuba, the message I always get from Cuba is they want to do business and they don't want war.
They want to do business. They don't want war. There's a sense of urgency on our part because China is trying to make inroads into Cuba.
And Russia, too. And who did Russia say today that they were going to support?
They said they were backing Cuba.
Okay.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck with that, yeah.
Right.
Let's go. KT, we love you. Thank you for coming on. We got to move on. We got Alan Dershowitz on the other line.
Thank you, KT.
Thank you.
Thank you.